Are you now at the point where you're wanting to scale your business to the next level? Maybe you want your first team member in, or maybe you want to get more clients through the door so you can bring in extra revenue. Well, this video is going to be perfect for you, as I'm going to break down the 5 key areas that you're going to need to make sure that you can scale your business. For the last 3 years, I've worked with over 300 entrepreneurs on their systems. And eventually you start to see the patterns that actually show when it comes to not being able to scale your business. And I want to break down those top 5 things you need to think about or have in place to know that your company has the ability to scale, but also has the foundations to actually achieve it. Let's start with the first one, and that's going to be tracking metrics. I know this might sound stupid to some of you, but the majority of entrepreneurs don't actually track anything. They have something in place to bring in data, but then don't use that data for any decision that's going to happen. Or better yet, they just don't track data at all. Data gives you logical insight as to what is going on. And I understand that you are so fixated on bringing in more clients and making more sales that the data itself doesn't actually matter too much. But by knowing what is going on in your business, you can bring it back to logic and actually decide, is this helping the business or is this just stopping us from moving forward? We also have to make sure that we're finding a way of simplifying what we track, because businesses will take 2 extremes with this. It's either that they're not tracking anything at all, or they track everything and have no idea what to do with it. I'm going to take you through some examples of what that would look like to track and how you can actually do it. I'll also give you access to track it yourself if you're wanting to do this for your own business. So from this, we're really not wanting to make anything crazy. We want to make it simple, really straightforward, and something that's easy to just digest and fill in every single week. By doing so, you just give yourself the opportunity to actually stay on top of what's going on and how you're actually doing it. So if you're looking at things like social media, you could be looking at things like number of posts that you put out that week, number of things that you're submitting, so that if you're playing that numbers game on social media of, I just want to be showing up every single day. And are you doing that and are you matching that? Is that actually getting to where you want to go? Something like revenue, cash collected, or even profit can be really, really good to track. I would always recommend profit, if anything. Revenue doesn't matter too much. You could have a £200,000 company and your actual profit margins are 3% after everything. Therefore, you're not actually making anything really. You're making something, but really not that much. So potentially profit. Cash collected can be a really good one if you get it over a longer period of time. Close rate percentages, sales calls booked. There's so many things that you can be doing in here. But again, what you want to do is keep it simple. So let's just say our target is 10K for that month. Obviously in week 1, we could maybe have 3K. In week 2, we could have 2. In week 3, we could have 3 again. And then in week 4, we could have 4. And if there's a remaining week that you have, then you would do it. Obviously, at this point, you're going to then fill it in that it's a current level of green because you're overachieving, and any notes that you may have in that month of what's going on. Maybe there's something stand out. Maybe there's something to pay attention to. Genuinely, by doing this, spending 5 minutes on it every single week, you're going to be able to get a very big oversight of how your company works. And as long as you make the decision something that you can come to a conclusion off of, you're going to benefit from it. From what you've saw, there are a few key areas that you can use when you're tracking your metrics or when you're tracking what you can do. But what I always like to make the decision based off of is, from that information we are gathering, can we make a decision off of the back of it? What I mean by that is that if you are tracking something like your sales close rate, are you then able to make a decision on how to change that to either improve it or consistently make it better with what you're currently doing? If you can't come to that conclusion through the metrics that you're tracking, you're either tracking the wrong thing or you're tracking something that is maybe a little bit too deep right now for what you need. And we have to look at more of a wider view of what's going on. The second one is what roles and responsibilities you have in the company. You might currently be solo, and this is still going to matter a lot, especially if you want to scale the business. But if you do have team members, this is going to be absolutely critical for you. Else you'll just not be able to get to where you want to get to. There's a few things you should consider when it comes to this side of things. First one is skill versus training. So we've done both before, where we've hired someone that has the skills in place ready to go, and we've hired someone that has no skills, and you have to teach them those skills for what your business is aiming for and what you're actually looking to do with that. Both can be really good. And for the startup phases, it tends to be that you're more hiring for the training side of things, purely because you might not have the money to pay someone that has the skills to do what they need to do. However, you can look at it in another way, where if you hire the person that has the skills, maybe you could take them on a freelance basis or a part-time basis, and they might actually be able to get more done than the person that you're having to train to get up to scratch with where you're wanting to go. It's a key consideration because you're going to spend a lot of time with this person, training them to get them up to your culture and your team's standard. And that means you have to take that time away from what you were doing to actually get there. Whereas someone who has the skills in place, they might be able to come in right away, understand what you need, and actually bring their expertise to the table. And that allows you to focus on the other things you're wanting to make sure are happening. So if you are thinking of bringing someone in, then make sure you know the deciding factor between, do you want the skills of someone coming in who you're more likely going to have to pay more, or someone who you need to train, but you can mold into the culture that you are wanting to build. The second one is responsibilities and targets. Now, I know when you hear something like KPIs, you're going to probably cringe a little bit, and I get that. But metrics are really important to understand whether or not someone is genuinely doing a good job in your business or not. Let's take the example of two different people. The first one, they don't track anything, and it's more so that they are set to do this thing and we'll see how they get on with it. The second one, they have a few key targets and metrics that can actually see whether or not they're hitting those. Now, if we go 2 or 3 months into that and we have both of those employees maybe not hitting exactly what you're wanting them to do, the first one, who's not got any KPIs in place or any responsibilities in place, you can only really go to them and say, hey, I don't think this is working out and I don't know why. You might have some insight and you might have some inclination as to why that's the case, but more often than not, what I've seen from people actually doing this is they have no idea what they're doing, what they're saying to that employee, and what they're saying to that person who's meant to be doing a job that you have paid your hard-earned money for. This wastes more time. This often sends you down the wrong direction of your business because you don't know where the problem is. And again, the person that you've brought in and hired, who was probably quite alive and up for it at the start, might be quite demotivated by this point purely because you've not given them what they need. Second one, however, when you have those meetings with them, you can showcase the responsibilities that you set out for them and that you both agreed upon, and also the targets that you're wanting them to hit. Just giving you that opportunity to say, hey, this isn't working out right now. What is it we can do to improve this particular area? That again is going to lead us to those metrics where you can break down the decision and allows them to move forward rather than just staying stuck or you getting annoyed at them because you've not told them what they need to be doing. And the final one for this point is culture being formed by your leadership. You are the top chain of all of this. So if you don't run your business the way that you want your culture to form inside of that business, it's not going to be the case. If you don't stick to your word, if you don't call yourself out when things have went wrong and it's your fault, if you don't take responsibility for what the business is doing and how you're moving forward, the people that you bring on are going to do the exact same. They're not going to work to the deadlines. They're not going to push the way that you want to push. And at the end of the day, the business will probably fail because you're unwilling to actually see that the culture starts with you. So if you are actually solo right now, you should be starting this from the ground up. It sounds so sad, but I've been having a weekly team meeting with myself since I've went solo, and that's purely because I know how important it is to actually keep on top of those things, because of how important it is to know where things are going right and where I'm putting in the work to see if it's actually moving the needle. And this leads me amazingly into this third point, which is weekly meetings. They might seem boring and monotonous. I get that. They are so essential to know where people are in the business or even where you are in the business. There's a reason why so many people journal and write down their thoughts, and people recommend doing it all the time. And it's because you're able to get out from what's in your head onto paper, onto somewhere that it exists, instead of it just being all in your head. We're so emotionally attached to our business, we're so emotionally attached to what we do, that it can really cause problems when we don't know why we're doing things, or we might not be actually getting closer to the vision that we'd set out for this business. Here's the 10 out of 10 meeting from Traction. It's a fantastic book. I'd highly recommend it, where you're able to just break down simply what is going on in that week. Now, I've made a few tweaks myself to fit what I'm actually looking for, but it's a fantastic book to understand why those meetings are so essential, and it will actually force you into looking at the business logically rather than how you're feeling that day. What you also do is you're able to praise the team for the work that they're doing, showcase the things that you're going to be working on that following week, and also all the things that you know are moving the needle forward. You get to give praise, you get to set targets, and you get to get the priorities straight for the following week. You can't ask for much more than that, and taking an hour out of your week to do it, it's going to be a game changer. The fourth one is what we call working on the business. Now, the difference between working on the business and in the business is pretty straightforward. In the business is all the little firefighting tasks that you do day to day. On the business is working on the bigger vision of the company, what you're going to work towards and what you're looking to do to improve and elevate what the company offers. Most entrepreneurs will spend their time working in the business purely because they feel important when they're firefighting all the time, and they feel important when they get to complete all those little tasks that are going on. Now, the issue that most run into, and what I've saw when I've worked with them, is that they tend to forget that working in the business isn't actually going to move the business to the place that they want to get to. We need to set dedicated time aside every single day or week, depending on how you structure your week, to work on the business. This could be things like improving your sales framework for a higher percent close. This could be improving your ads so that they get better. This could be improving your systems so that your onboarding works more smoothly. All of these things means that the time that you spend working in the business and doing all those little firefights become less and less over time. Now, don't get me wrong, you're still going to be firefighting in the business constantly, and there's going to be things that come up that you just have to prioritize. But by working on the business, you are able to actually build it to the place that you want to get it to. And why doing all the previous work that I've mentioned is so important to actually have in place. Because if you don't know what you're working towards, then you're going to have no idea why you're doing the work on the business. And therefore, you'll just default back to working in it and firefighting all the time. If you're struggling to come up with some ideas, I get that. I know a lot of you might be thinking, well, I have no idea what to work on. So here's a few key areas that you can do today that will help your business, and every single one of you should probably be working on this constantly anyway. The first one is sales, where you can work on your script, your presence, your confidence on a call, and actually doing a role play with yourself. Marketing, you can work on things like your content, your ads, your call to actions, your storytelling. These can be things of directly looking at how do I improve my storytelling and my content, where you can look at some of your content, digest it, and see, are there ways I can improve that storytelling? Delivery, things like your onboarding, retention, and how you show up to your delivery itself. And finally, systems, literally doing the things that I'm asking you to do on this video. The final one I'm going to talk about today when it comes to scaling your business is a money hire or a time hire. Now, we get told this by our mentor 2 years ago when talking about bringing in people, and it was so good and it stuck with me for ages. And it was that any hire that you make is either going to be a money hire or a time hire. And a money hire will simply bring in you more money, like a salesperson, and a time hire will save you more time to do the things that you want to do or are really good at doing. So something like a VA. You have to choose which hire you go with to start, as it will actually be really critical for how your business scales and where it goes. If you have someone that you hire to bring in more money, you best believe that your company needs to be set and ready to go to actually achieve more of that money coming in. What people will think about is that, oh, the more money we bring in, just the easier it will be. And I agree to a point, but if your business is terrible in its delivery, your offer doesn't actually do what you say you're going to do, and everything is all over the place, it doesn't matter how much money you bring in, you will never be able to sustain that. Now, a time hire on that fact will allow you to get more of your time back to work on the business and potentially make more money, but at that moment in time, it might not directly bring in revenue the way that a money hire would. So it's important to establish which route that you want to go down and why, and how you actually differentiate those different hires and what would be best for you at this moment in time. I always look at it that if you get more time to work on the business, that should be making you more money because you are the person that's going to help the business make more money. And if you want someone to come in and get you more money, you have to make sure that the business itself works extremely well so that when that money comes in, you're prepared and ready to go. More often than not, businesses will take quite a dip when a jump in revenue happens, purely because the business wasn't ready for that revenue to happen. They have to learn all those lessons again and then build the business so that it can sustain that new level. And it's important to actually know where you're at. Scaling your business isn't easy. I've watched hundreds of entrepreneurs do it, and we've done it ourselves with bringing in our first few hires and building a team. So I know what it's like to do it solo and then to work up to that team. There's going to be a lot of lessons along the way that you can actually do and build, but it's an essential part of what you're actually going for. If you follow these steps that I've mentioned in this video, your business will be able to get to the stage you're looking to get it to.